Power on.
I think I ate too much of that cookie.
It was a good cookie, though. It looked really good. Lots of protein.
Yeah, that's what it said on the package.
That's what it says, anyway.
I don't know if that's true.
Well, you know, speaking of potentially false advertising, that's actually kind of fitting for what we're going to talk about in this episode. But yeah, we're coming, we're actually across. I see a church there yonder.
Just out the window.
Just out the window. How perfect for us to be recording next to a church. But anyway, of course, Brian and Ellen here, the wild and wonderful Ellen Trouble Stallone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What an intro.
I know, right? Well, I gotta come up with something for this. So speaking of which, we haven't come up with like a title for this, because I think we're going to end up doing this a lot, where we go and catch these movies and we do some kind of review.
Yeah, and I think you had a really interesting idea for putting a spin on it. Maybe adding a little bit of content that isn't typical to a podcast.
Yeah, in fact, it's considered bad form for a podcast, but I think that's why we need to do it, because
we got to break the rules.
We got to break the rules. That's what we do. Anyway, but yeah, so Ellen and I have been seeing, over the past couple weeks, we have been seeing all of the original Batman films. These are the ones that ran from, I guess it was 89 to 97, I think is when Batman and Robin came out. Now, we haven't seen Batman Forever yet, which came out in 95. And we haven't seen Batman and Robin yet. We will be seeing these. Batman and Robin is the last one that came out in 97. But we did just see Batman Returns. And when I mentioned earlier that perhaps the packaging may not match what's actually inside, Batman Returns might be a case of that for many reasons. Some easily provable, some not. But yeah, so we caught Batman Returns, and for those that are following along, we did just recently released our review of the original 89 Batman with Michael Keaton, and this is the return of that in 1992 with Michael Keaton and Tim Burton. Michael Keaton, of course, reprising his role as Batman, and Tim Burton reprising directorial duties with some writing duties, and Sam Hamm was still involved with the writing and all this, and of course, Danny Elfman came back to do the score. And the movie, I mean, how do you feel about this movie, Ellen? Like, in comparison to the 1989 film, which you loved, you really enjoyed that.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, if you're going to quickly compare the two, which one's better, in your opinion? I know it's a subjective thing, but...
Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I really liked the previous Batman movie that we went to see. This one seemed a little bit darker and creepier.
Even darker.
Yes.
Yeah, because the 89 Batman's plenty dark, but this was darker, sure.
Sure. I mean, there are quite a few differences. Like, the villain is fundamentally different. Batman is still Batman. And then you have this third character. You don't really know if she's a villain or a good person or just confused.
An anti-hero of sorts. That being Catwoman, of course, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. Sure. Yeah, keep going.
Right. So, I don't know. I I guess it's hard to compare the two. It's like apples and oranges, but I guess I prefer the previous Batman movie, honestly. I mean, maybe as we talk about it more, I'll change my mind.
No, I mean, I share your opinion. I think that the '89 Batman is one of the best movies ever made, bar none. Regardless of it being a Batman film, as far as how it ranks in that sense. I think I think the '89 Batman's far better than Batman Returns. I mean, they're not even. Well, okay, so real quick on this. Now, you'd never really seen this before, or if you did, it was kind of in passing, right?
Sure, I remember seeing it as a child.
Yeah.
It's very memorable. You can never forget the Penguin.
Yeah, he's a very memorable character, that's true. And in fact, same. So me, I was, this was one of my initial birthday movies that I got very excited about, which would become a tradition for me for quite some time. In fact, the other nice thing is that this year, in 2019, my birthday movie is actually Batman Forever, on the actual day, May 12th, which is really exciting for me, personally. But anyway, so this is kind of one of my first birthday movies, and I went and saw this as a kid in '92, saw it in theaters. My mother took me, the whole thing. I was so before this movie even came out, I was buying all the toys, I was buying all the trading cards, right? I mean, I was getting everything. I was so excited for this. This was going to be like the greatest movie ever fucking made, because the '89 Batman was goddamned awesome, And of course, Adam West, I love the classic TV series. But I saw it as a kid, and you know what? I hadn't watched it since. I saw it in theaters in '92, and like there might have been a point where I kind of tried to watch it again. There's a million times where at the rental store, the VHS rental store, that I'd see it sitting there, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to bother with this. I'm not going to watch this. And in fact, the number one reason that I didn't want to watch it was actually the Penguin.
Did it scare you?
Yeah, I thought the Penguin was a terrifying character, In fact, my youngest brother, Bradley, it was one of the first sentences he could ever speak, because he went and saw this movie with us.
Whoa!
And he was a little guy, because he was born in '88, I think. And so, he was barely like 4 or 5 years old, and one of the first sentences we could ever get him to do is we'd say to him, Bradley, what does the Penguin do? And he says, he bit him nose off.
Ah! Oh, God.
That's what he would say, because that's what happened in the movie, right? He's in the mayoral offices there or whatever, and he bites that guy's nose off.
Yeah, at least I don't have blood gushing from my nose.
Right, yeah. But I mean, that's how memorable that was for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Danny DeVito
crazy.
playing the Penguin. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying.
No, please.
It's crazy. That's something that you don't forget, because how often do you see in movies someone biting someone else's nose off?
Yeah, and I guess maybe to quickly speak to this, and we don't need to harp on it for long, because I want to get into the actual merits of the film. I mean, I personally, as a connoisseur of cinematography, or of cinema, I pay a lot of attention to the production and what happens kind of behind the scenes and a lot of this stuff. But this might be one of the things that actually got me on that kick, where I cared about what is being parlayed and portrayed about the film outside of the actual film itself. Because and you can this can be read about all over the place. It's widely known. There was a massive backlash against this movie in 1992 because it was being sold on TV with the toys, with all this other stuff, as a family movie. No, Mommy, you can take your kids, to go see this film.
That's so gruesome for a family movie.
Precisely. Exactly. Yeah, that's it. I mean, I didn't even prompt you, and you just brought it up. I mean, well, you saw it as a kid, too. And, yeah, this is, no way is this a kid's film. Not even close.
There's a lot of death.
Yeah, a lot of death. I mean, you got, again, Penguin biting this person's nose. I mean, and the Penguin, just a very disturbing, very frightening character. I mean, now, as an adult, it doesn't really bother me. But back then, a kid in '92, I mean, that was fucked up.
Yeah, and he's wildly inappropriate.
Sure. And then, parents bring up the well, especially in 1992, the very non-traditional, unconventional sexual innuendo and imagery that Catwoman puts on display, which it's total BDSM, which I love that now. I dig that, or I appreciate that now about the character. And but when you're a kid, no, you don't want a kid seeing that kind of. I mean, I'll agree with that. You don't need I mean, I was born in '81, so I mean, I wasn't a little kid. I guess it was 11. But you don't need an 11-year-old seeing that shit, you know? And like I can understand the backlash that this really was being marketed as a family film, and it is absolutely not. It's just not a family movie at all. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think you might be overstating the BDSM aspect to Catwoman's character. It's not like she had Batman bent over a knee and was like whipping him or something.
It was close, but yeah, no, I mean, sure.
I mean, like...
Well, but Penguin is pretty much saying you want to get nude in this bed and like have sexual relations and everything. I mean,
yeah, that's exactly what he said, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, and I mean that's almost verbatim what he said. I mean, and she's got the whips and wearing all the leather and everything. I mean, I think it's pretty apparent.
Okay, maybe to you, but to a child, I don't think they realize that. I think it's just another crazy character that's wearing some weird costume.
Yeah, no, you're right. I did not get that then. Okay, but like it's kind of. Oh, this gets into a big thing, right? In fact, we've talked about this recently. Like, Rick Springfield, okay, one of my favorite musicians of all time, Rick Springfield. His biggest album of all time, Working Class Dog, has Jesse's Girl on it, the whole thing. Okay, this is the guy who at 30, which that's creepy enough, but at 30, he's like on the cover of Tiger Beat and all this, or 30-something, whatever. He's on the cover of all this stuff. He writes, there's a song on there, the last track on there is Inside Sylvia. Okay, now you had gals from the ages of like 6 to 16, you know, and plenty in between, probably average age 12, listening to this album stem to stern all the time. Okay, and Inside Sylvia is all about fucking this gal. Now, like, is apparent, I mean, yeah, did I know that? I didn't know that till I saw Rick Springfield in concert that song was about. But like when you find that out, and he even says it in concert, like Rick admits to it now, that like, isn't that creepy that, you know, you were 10 when you probably heard this song? Like, he knows that that's really fucked up. Now, I don't think he knew he was going to be sold off to a bunch of teeny boppers, you know, but it still comes off kind of weird. So anyway, just like She Bop by Cyndi Lauper, one of the biggest songs for the teenage gals back in the day, was that whole song is literally about masturbation. But I mean, so there's something to be said there, and I don't know what kind of conversation to have around that like, if you don't know that it's there but that's what it's meant to be, where does It's Okay come in?
Yeah, I just don't know if it's doing any harm if you don't know what it's about. Like, if someone told you, like, hey, did you know that song is actually about sex? Like, I'm sure a kid would be creeped out by that. But, I mean, they're just ignorant of that fact. And, you know, they enjoy it for something entirely different.
BBS@sovereigntech.com if you have thoughts on this, because this is a conversation that needs to be had. But anyway, bottom line being, like, you do agree, though, with the overall statement that this is not a family movie.
No, I don't think so at all.
Right.
I mean, if anything, like, the very end, you know, there's, like, people dying and being rolled into the sewer water.
Yeah, and another big problem for me, like, Batman traditionally has a rule about not killing. And it was a little bothersome that he's in this, like, tossing bombs in people's pants that are going to kill them. It's without question that they die. And he's smiling about it. Like it's funny. And that kind of bothers me on a Batman angle. But anyway, that's getting into, like, the nitty-gritty on this film, which we'll get into. So, yeah, but, you know, as far as, like, a book being judged by its cover, I mean, or, you know, how it was marketed, this movie was marketed totally wrong. And it ended up not being a flop. It was still a real success, but it did not do anywhere near the money that its predecessor did. And I think that's very much because there weren't repeat viewings. People weren't going back to theaters to see this because it was just too fucking strange or disturbing, or there was that major media backlash. And I, again, this is one where, I mean, you know, I'm not a conservative. You wouldn't call yourself a conservative, Ellen, at all.
Well, I don't think so.
Yeah, right. But this is one where the conservatives, I had a point where they're like, no, you know what, you told us this was for family, and it's not. But anyway, beyond that, unless you have more comments you want to make on that.
No,
okay.
I agree. I'd like to start talking about it.
Yeah, let's get into the film. So let's talk about the acting here. We'll talk about the characters, get into some of the acting. We'll do a little breakdown on it, okay? Tim Burton's directing, I mean, I think that's it's Tim Burton. This is easily a Tim Burton film. We can talk more about that later, but nothing wrong as far as direction goes.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was definitely, again, creepier than the previous Batman movie, but...
Right.
Yeah, I thought the storyline and the characters all worked together really well.
Sure. So, and as far as like the actors go, Michael Keaton as Batman, still delivering.
Still excellent, yeah.
Still excellent, yeah. I mean, and he was. Like, regardless of Tim Burton's interpretation, like, Michael Keaton's killing it in this. I mean, he's just doing a phenomenal job. Danny DeVito as the Penguin. How do you feel about this?
I mean, he's a disgusting character, but I think he's meant to be, like, really repulsive to regular people.
Yeah.
You know, like, he's a freak. He was abandoned by his own parents. He grew up in a sewer with a bunch of penguins, which is, like, a really strange plot point. What are penguins doing in a sewer? But, you know, it worked in the movie.
Yeah, it's just that much strange that it works. It's like, well, that's so ridiculous. Okay. Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that adds, like, a cutesy factor to it. And it also kind of helps you to empathize with him. Later in the movie, you find out that, like, he's really had this master plan all along. But at least in the early stages of the movie, you know, you do empathize with his character. Like, he's very disgustingly ugly and freakish and, like, gross, eats raw fish, and breathes heavily on people, and gropes his fan base. But, you know, I mean... It seems as though he was put into these bad circumstances, you know, it was beyond his control. He's just trying to make the best of it.
Yeah, you can kind of feel it for him. And I mean, Danny DeVito did a fine job acting, and something we'll talk about in a minute is the comedy of this film. There are some pretty funny one-liners.
Oh, yeah.
And Danny DeVito, like, delivers them pretty well.
He acted out the part perfectly. Yeah.
Despite, like, this being a terrible, in my opinion, a terrible rendition of the Penguin, Danny DeVito did his job. You know, he made it work for what it is. So, what do you got? You're looking at me very.
I was just imagining some scenes, and, like, you know, to me, Danny DeVito was, like, gross and creepy all at once, and that's exactly what the Penguin should be. But I guess. You have some other idea of the Penguin? I'm guessing that's from, like, comic books? Or...
Yeah, well, a few things. Oh, this could get into a huge subject. But I'll just say quickly that, yeah, like, I'm very used to Burgess Meredith playing the Penguin in the original 60 to 66 Batman TV series, which he did a tremendous job. And, of course, most people know Burgess Meredith for playing Mickey in the Rocky movies. You know, just a little Jewish guy kind of going around and everything. Yeah, in the comic books, he's a much classier character. You know, like, he doesn't really look that freakish. I mean, he's kind of a potbelly, looking like a banker, has, like, the monocle in one eye and all this stuff. But he looks like the Monopoly Man in a way, with the big nose. But not as freakish in any way as the Penguin is in Batman Returns. So, now the character of Max Schreck, played by Christopher Walken. This is a original character, which might have some bearing. Interesting character, works. Christopher Walken is Christopher Walken. I mean, you get what you get with that guy, and he's hilarious and just, you know, does tremendous every time. What did you think about Christopher Walken as Max Schreck?
Oh, I mean, he was great with the deadpan delivery.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't think he smiles once in the film.
Right.
Maybe he does. I don't know. You can count them.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's just great as, you know, he's like this evil rich man who runs some company trying to build a power plant that's actually a capacitor.
Right. It's actually the opposite of a power plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, evil character, but he pulls it off really well.
Yeah, if you're trying to make something ridiculous, or trying to say that there's more here that, or, like, you know, if you're going for a sardonic attitude or something like that, Christopher Walken is as good as you can get. I mean, he's a great horror actor too. You can think of a few movies like that, but also, like, just straight up.
He seems totally heartless.
Yeah. He just, that deadpan. He's a master of it. He delivers it well. Michelle Pfeiffer as the Catwoman, or as Catwoman. How do you feel about this?
Oh, I thought it was really interesting. I mean, Catwoman, or Selina, you know, it's interesting that there's, like, at the beginning of the film, she's a very different character than Catwoman.
Very meek,
Yes.
very mild. Yeah.
I really related to her as like the assistant.
Oh, and just being
corn
ignored.
dog.
Yeah, right.
But then, after she dies and comes back to life, it's like this split personality disorder almost. Like
she becomes...
She instantly becomes this like sassy Catwoman that, likes to wear leather and wants to go cause chaos and get back at Max Schreck for pushing her out a window.
So you can't really relate with that part of the character.
Well, I've never been pushed out of a window.
Right.
I guess. I mean,
well,
I've certainly had bad things done to me and wanted revenge, but I never went and sought out revenge.
Okay, so, but like the sassy and leather... Well...
That might be a little much for on the mic.
Oh, all right. Well, I just making sure we understand like what parts of this character like you could relate with and what you couldn't. That's all.
So tell us, Ellen, have you ever used a whip on
edit? No. We'll be right back with some more Batman review in just a moment. No, all right. Okay, so but Catwoman, I mean, so Michelle Pfeiffer, you thought she did a great job.
Oh yeah, I thought she was amazing. I mean, she really pulled off the yummy Catwoman part really well.
Yeah.
No, it was amazing. Even after, she starts seeing Bruce Wayne in the film, she still kind of pulls off like a normal person. Mm-hmm. I thought she was wonderful. Yeah, she really did pull off the split personality, I mean, super well, which is impressive in itself because, I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer is conventionally seen as just this incredibly, like, one of the sexiest actresses, and one of the most talented, that Hollywood's ever seen. I mean, like, she has that reputation, and to be able to pull off, like, those two different sides of that character, I mean, that speaks to her acting prowess. In many ways, she stole this movie. In fact, she's ironically, I feel like she's almost the most like legitimate and real part of the movie. Yeah, Batman doesn't really get that many lines. No, and he's kind of a goof. Yeah. It's her. The story's about her. Yeah. I mean, there was originally plans to make a sequel Catwoman movie where she was going to go to Oasisburg. What did I say? Oasisburg? Yeah, that was it's supposed to be like Las Vegas. Okay. And she's just going to go there and just like, I don't know, make fun of the like male superheroes in the city and everything, which I wouldn't have minded seeing that. I mean, we can get more into kind of the messages in this film, including what is very clearly, especially with the character of Catwoman, a very feminist message that's a part of it. But yeah, that would have been interesting. Unfortunately, that movie turned into a horrendous film and maybe one of the few terrible Halle Berry movies, that being Catwoman, which I think came out in 2004. It was a horrible movie. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it was so bad. I really enjoyed that as a kid. The Catwoman movie? Yeah, I mean, maybe it's because I was so young, but... Well, no, it actually... I wouldn't mind watching it again. And if I allowed myself, because this is a new trait of mine, my ability to let go of my need for fidelity in my content. Like, because the Marvel movies have fucked up so much in Hollywood, comic books, and really the entire entertainment industry. I mean, basically destroyed the entertainment industry and made it worthless. Like, I've given up on anything like pretending to be it like its source material. Like, I don't expect a Batman movie to be anything like what happened in the comic books, because frankly, even in the comic books don't follow its own like doesn't have its own fidelity anymore either. So watching Catwoman without needing it to be Catwoman, as we've known her for decades, I think that might turn out to actually be an alright film. So anyway, we'll give that a reassessment at some point. Yeah. But okay, so you watch this. Future movie review. We're going to do Catwoman. All right. I think that needs to happen. Okay, so acting across the board, I mean, there's nothing wrong as far as the acting goes in this. Oh, all the actors were wonderful. Yeah, incredible. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Music. Let's talk music.
Danny Elfman comes back to score this one. There is no Prince soundtrack, which some people missed. I think they were hoping for that. But it's just Danny Elfman doing his thing. How do you feel about the music in this movie?
I mean, I don't really have much to say about it. It was, Danny Elfman is great, but, yeah, I don't know. It didn't really stand out to me.
It's not stand out. It's serviceable. It's just there. Does the job.
Yeah.
Yeah, ironically, and I've told you about this, Ellen, ironically, like Danny Elfman says this is his favorite score. Mm-hmm. Like, this is his favorite soundtrack that he's ever done. I cannot, to this day, I can't fathom why that is so. I mean, you get the Batman theme, which is nice, but I don't know what the hell, whatever. If that's how he feels about it, that's how he feels about it. But yeah, same as you. Like, it's a very serviceable score. It does the job. It's Batman. It works. Getting out of that, special effects. How do you feel about special effects in this film? Any thoughts there?
I mean, they were good. They were believable.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see anything that looked bad.
See, this is the thing. So this is a movie very early on in the CGI revolution in Hollywood. And I kind of feel like, now we're seeing what I think is like a 4K transfer of this movie in theaters, because end of the month, this month, May 2019, I think they're re-releasing all these movies on 4K. I don't care. I just watched the Blu-rays. I already have the Blu-rays. I think 4K is bullshit. But I felt like some of the CGI showed, and it showed hard, and it was a little ugly.
There were some scenes like
with the bats,
like Batman. It showed like Batman standing on the top of a building, and then he turns around and walks away, and he's like fading out. There's a shadow coming from somewhere, and like that looks very animated. Like you could tell that was CGI.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just little things like that.
Yeah, it's still a largely practical film, like with practical effects. So it still looks good, and that really speaks to the timelessness of practical effects.
Yeah, the bats flying around though, like when all of the bats were released in the square, that did look kind of bad. Yeah.
Now when the penguins are all running around, that looks amazing, but a lot of people have a problem with that because it's like, wait, were those penguins treated ethically, or because they have these rockets strapped to their backs and everything? They look fantastic to this day, especially even in 4K in such high resolution, because they're real. Those are like real penguins. But it does raise the question of how well they were treated.
Yeah, were the rockets real?
Many penguins died to bring us this information. I don't know. It's pretty bad. But so otherwise, I mean, this does feel like I want to talk a little bit about Gotham, and then we can just kind of talk about the movie overall, because we got the production stuff out of the way. I kind of want to talk about Gotham City. So this takes place during the winter. Some people even claim this film is like an anti-Christmas film. I've read those kinds of reviews. But it feels like a Christmas film in a way.
Sure, it's happening around Christmas time.
Yeah. Anyway, so I feel Gotham feels a lot smaller in this. Like, Gotham City felt huge in the 89 Batman, and it felt very alive. I mean, it was hell on earth, but it felt very alive. As to where in this, everything seemed like the amount of people felt like, what's the word I'm looking for? It seemed comically small. Like,
yeah, you don't get a lot of those side actors like the people milling around in the streets.
No, there's just not like a bunch of extras.
Like the big shots of like over the city.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of action or liveliness. Like, it doesn't have that New York City like hell springing forward sort of feeling to it.
Right. I mean, the streets feel honestly very empty, and it's very weird. I don't know. Watching this film again, I wonder about some of the messages within it, and I sort of wonder if there was it's either it's just more of a Tim Burton film, okay, and so he keeps things comically small, so it's seen as ridiculous, or there's three options here. B, maybe he's making some kind of joke about Batman's quest for justice being totalitarian, that people are afraid to even like leave their houses or their homes or anything like that. They're not even on the streets because who knows, Batman might see them and they're chewing their gum wrong or something like that. I don't know. The other possibility is that this film, which gets into a bigger subject maybe that we'll get into later on, is that this movie is really a love letter to German expressionism films, kind of like Metropolis and some other classics like that. And so it was like purposely, because like Max Schreck looks like a character from like the 30s science fiction. And so maybe there's something there to make it look small. Like those movies seemed very small, even though they tried to go grand in scope. But anyway, so you noticed that too, that Gotham felt a lot smaller.
Yeah, and I wondered if it had something to do with like just trying to keep the attention on the important things. Because there were like several main characters in this movie. Like there's Batman, Catwoman, Max Schreck, the Penguin, and then there's these like they're like somewhat important, the Triangle Gang.
Yeah.
Which like they make several appearances and do play an important role in the movie. But yeah, I don't know if in this film like maybe it was assumed to be already established that Gotham City was like this horrible place to live. Maybe the streets were emptier because it was like around Christmas time. People are cold, they don't want to be outside. I don't know.
Yeah. But
I felt like because there were fewer extras, it just kept the attention where it was meant to be,
Yeah. I mean, that's possible. I think it's open to a lot of interpretation. Like, I'm not going to say I have the answer. It's very noticeable that this Gotham City, A, seems comical, and B, not comical as in comic book. Comical as in it just doesn't seem real. As to where the '89 Batman Gotham City is just very visceral, very alive. Like, there's so much going on. You could look at every detail, and there's very little detail now. It's weird. And I can't imagine this movie, in fact, I know it had a much larger budget than the '89 Batman did, because that movie did so well. It was just one of the biggest movies of its day. There's no reason for them to downscale, the production, in my opinion. What do you got?
Well, I was thinking maybe you have a point about, now that Batman has made his big break, people know that he's real. He's not just a rumor.
Right.
All the people who are doing small like petty crimes, they might not be out on the streets anymore.
That could be. Maybe, he's done his job.
Because in the previous film, I remember seeing a lot of, like, drunks walking around.
A lot of perps.
Prostitutes, like, trying to, like, reach out and touch people,
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot of weird, like, weird things happening that were probably not legal.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, in this film, it was more like just your average everyday person walking home from work or something.
Yeah, that could very well be. That maybe there's like some kind of a message there. So, but it's very noticeable. But anyway, aside from that, let's talk about let's talk about the action. The action in this movie, the fight scenes. What happens with the Batmobile. A lot of these other things. Of course, the Batmobile. For the first time, well, no, in the Christopher Nolan movie, I guess the Batmobile stays the same in those. But the Batmobile, we get the same one from the previous film, which is a beautiful design. I mean, you really can't. Yeah, you can't improve upon it. It has a couple of extra new tricks in this movie. The ability to has like a hydraulic lift underneath it that can make it do a complete 180 if it's at the end of like an alleyway or something like that. Of course, there's the Bat Missile where it can like split off parts of the Batmobile so it can like go through a tighter alleyway. A lot of different little abilities like that involved. But how did you feel like satisfied? You're seeing a superhero movie. You're expecting Batman's going to take on the bad guy. Or the bad guys. He's going to, get to fisticuffs, use the Batarang, get in the Batmobile. How did you feel about the action? Was it satisfactory for you in this movie?
I mean, the action with Catwoman was pretty satisfactory.
Sure.
I feel like Batman only played I guess you could say minor compared to Catwoman. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of Batman action, so I would have liked more of that.
Yeah. I think that's a criticism I hear for this film as well, and that I kind of felt was that the action almost felt like an afterthought. Like, there's a lot less Batman time, it felt like, in this, as compared to Bruce Wayne time. There seemed to be more of that. And we even get like the classic look of where, Michael Keaton rips off the cowl and leaves it off, but stays in the rest of the Batman outfit. And I don't know what to say there for that, but it's an interesting point to kind of bring up, is that the action did sort of seem like a strange afterthought. The comedy was not an afterthought. That was a lot of that. Some of it was a little too hokey.
Well, the thing is, like, everybody had funny lines except for Batman. Like, he had some really, like, terrible lines. There was one line that just flopped so hard.
Which one was that?
I wanted to facepalm. It was where he was... There was a girl that was kidnapped.
Yeah.
And Catwoman... Batman came to rescue her.
Yeah.
Catwoman came out, and she's like, I'm hungry. And Batman's like, eat floor. It's high in fiber.
Oh, yeah. Eat floor, it's high in fiber. Yeah. That was horrible. Like, I don't even... Yeah.
Was he really trying to be funny? Because it seemed like that.
It just doesn't work.
No, not funny at all.
Yeah.
Not even so terrible that you can laugh at it.
Yeah. I mean, and Batman, like, campy humor in Batman can work, even modern day. Like when you see Batman Forever, I'm gonna. Have you seen Batman Forever before?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of give a line away, but I just think it's so fucking hilarious. I love it. Where like this Nicole Kidman's character is hitting on Batman, and Batman just says to her, straight faced, "Are you trying to get under my cape, Doctor?" And it's perfect though. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, no one would say that, but it just worked. Like, you'll see in the film that it works. So yeah, that was a horrible bit of writing. Like, that was just a horrible line. But then you get classic lines like Penguin. How he was the firstborn son of the Cobblepot family.
I was their number one son, but they treated me like number two.
Yeah, and he literally got flushed down the drain. I mean, they tossed him into the sewers, Like, that is clever. Like, that's fucking funny as hell, getting treated like number two. Yeah. And there were a few other lines like that, where the one-liners, I mean, they really, really hit. And I mean, and some of them were so, like, you really had to be on your pun game to get it. Like that number 2 one. I mean, I think most people got it, but yeah. I don't know, any other major like funny comedy moments that you thought worked really well?
Yeah, there was a point where the Penguin was like, "Get in the duck."
Oh yeah, yeah, right. Get in the duck. Yeah.
It's just so hilarious. This like super evil, ugly character has this cute little duckmobile.
Yeah, this like rubber ducky tank. Yeah. Yeah, that was funny.
There's a lot of comical moments where, the Penguin is, he acts like a child in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's one point where the Penguin takes control of, like, he has the Triangle Gang implant this, transmitter into the Batmobile.
Yeah.
Like, somehow they've got the schematics and they know how to, like, disassemble his Batmobile.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's controlling the Batmobile, and he's doing it with this little toy, like one of those kid rides that you would see at the mall. Like, you put in 25 cents and get in the
little
car.
Bumpy car ride, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like jumping up and down on it and shaking it around. Right. And it's hilarious.
Yeah, especially when he loses control. He's like, he's like a little kid on it. Like it won't go anymore, mommy. Yeah, it is pretty funny. So there are some very humorous moments to this one. I don't think the humor is as good as in the 89 Batman. What do you think? With the Joker?
Maybe not. I mean, the Joker was very funny. Like, he was meant to be funny.
Yeah.
I think the comedy was just... Like, it was certainly there in this film, but there wasn't a character that was meant to be that funny.
Yeah, but there's plenty of points, and there's a lot of it where it is meant to be... Like, Max Schreck's character says things that are clearly some kind of social commentary, and are so ridiculous for like a power mad person to say out loud that it comes off as funny.
Oh, right.
Right. So there's those kinds of lines. So it works on that level, like in a comedic form. I mean, the problem is that all the comedy that works with the Penguin, for a little kid that's a Batman fan, the Penguin's fucking disturbing, and so the comedy's just not going to land. And yeah, Batman's comedy didn't work. Like,
it wasn't good.
No, and again, I really feel like they treated Bruce Wayne very much like a buffoon. I mean, it just didn't... I don't know. The relationship between Batman and Catwoman. How do you feel about this?
Batman and Catwoman or Bruce Wayne and Selina?
Both.
Okay. So I think Bruce Wayne and Selina meet before Batman and Catwoman do, right?
Yeah, well, so actually, well, yes, but Batman and Selina actually meet first.
Right, okay. So
she gets saved by
the beginning
Batman.
of the movie.
Yeah. She has
Batman
that great line about
her.
the guy needing therapy.
I love that so much. It's hilarious. What men in my life? Well, there's you, but you need therapy.
Yeah, this attacker that just almost killed her. Batman had to save her from him. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I really liked Bruce Wayne and Selina and their relationship. Like, when Bruce Wayne really is attracted to Selina, is after she's been pushed out of the window.
Yeah.
She comes back to the office, and Max is freaking out because he thinks that she's
supposed to be dead.
Yeah, he thinks that she's dead, and she's going to expose him, and she knows that, so she's just walking around, talking, having the time of her life, kind of teasing him in a way.
Right.
He doesn't know what she's going to do. And Bruce Wayne sees this, and he's like, wow, who is this wonderful, crazy woman?
Yeah, that doesn't take any shit. He totally recognizes it. Yeah.
So she walks away to get on the elevator, and he's like, wait, let me take you out to dinner. Very excited to see her again. And when they finally do meet up again, it seems like there's chemistry there. They're both very excited to be together, but...
Well, they're making out on the Wayne Manor couch.
Oh, they're doing more than making out. Yeah, it was just really sweet. But, because of the nature of their alternate personalities, which they can both relate to each other about. I mean, they were kind of talking to each other in a sort of meta fashion about that. About having a different side to their personality that they couldn't reveal to other people, that no one really understands. But it was nice that they had that sort of connection, though they didn't realize the extent of it. But then their alternate personalities, Batman and Catwoman, obviously very flirtatious, but Batman, I think, sees Catwoman as a villain. Yeah. Or at least a loose cannon.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that just led to a lot of really interesting interplay.
Sure, which has gone on in the comic books, even in the original 66 TV series. I mean, and it's been all over the place. One of the greater comic book romances, I think, because of the contrasts between the two characters. I thought it worked in this, the kind of almost the tragedy of the love between them and everything. It really did kind of work. I was overall pleased with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really many differences between them. They both were very wronged by other people in their life. I guess the difference mainly is that Batman seeks justice, and Selina, or Catwoman, is seeking vengeance. Which, I mean, there's very small difference between that. The only difference I really think there is between justice and vengeance is one is more personal than the other. Sure,
yeah. Instead of something that affects everybody else, one of them just affects you. I can see that. Yeah, a lot of places I want to go with this. Yeah, so why don't we talk a bit about I mean, that's something, what you brought up is something that the Batman mythos brings up a lot, that the heroes and the villains in many ways are two sides of the same coin. They're both kind of manic. It's just a matter of what side that they're on, or who they're helping, either themselves or everybody else, or whatever, however that story gets told. Very conventional stuff. Anyway, now some of the themes, and I don't mean the Danny Elfman themes, some of the themes in this movie, you felt there was a very strong feminist message in Batman Returns. I mean, do you want to speak more on that?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty obvious when Catwoman, when she first puts on her Catwoman suit, she goes out on the streets, I guess, looking for trouble, and she finds a woman being mugged by a man, and she walks up and she's like, "Oh, be gentle. It's my first time." So she kicks this guy's ass, and then she goes up to the woman who is being mugged, and the woman's like, "Oh, thank you." And Catwoman grabs her face and says, like, "You make it so easy, don't you? Always waiting for a Batman to save you. I'm Catwoman. Hear me roar." And, like, it's pretty obvious what she's saying there. Like, don't wait for a man to save you. You can do this yourself.
Right.
And she's just, like, very powerful feminine figure that is trying to take care of things herself. And then there's a point later where she's, working with the Penguin. And I thought it was interesting that they even, like, featured this at all in the story, but she's, like, using her sexuality in a way to manipulate the Penguin, which I don't know that that's necessarily, like, a positive feminist message, but that is something that a female who's, like, very confident in herself might do.
Sure.
In order to, like, gain some sort of power in a system that often excludes women. But then later on, when the Penguin finds out she doesn't want to sleep with him and she's not interested, he's like, "I don't think I like you anymore."
Yeah, right. He's like bringing her wine and everything, and then next thing you know, he's sending her up on a helicopter or on a Right.
So I think that was pointing out too that, like, women often just get thrown away once their usefulness as, like, a sex object is no longer there.
Yeah, no, I think that is a message there that not everybody would have picked up on, but I think I totally agree with you that it's there. Because, like, I mean, literally, it's like the Penguin is just throwing her away, which is, well, anyway, as you aptly put it all. I think that that's definitely there. I mean, and kudos to Tim Burton for putting that in, especially in 92. I mean, good for him, or whoever ended up actually like injecting that. I mean, just good for them for doing so. Other messages. How do you feel do you feel that there's an consumerism message here, or maybe an anti-capitalist message here?
Oh, definitely.
Really? Okay.
Well, the way that Selena was killed in the first place, she was working late, trying to help her boss, Max Schreck, get ready for this meeting that he was having the next day.
Yeah.
And she finds out about this new power plant that he's building, and that it's actually a capacitor that's going to be, like, taking the extra power from Gotham City. And she tells him that she knows this because she's just a nervous talker. And that's how he ends up killing her. Yeah,
because he doesn't want anyone else to find out.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, obviously they're painting him as, like, an evil person, or people who, especially people who are trying to just get more money and more power.
Yeah.
They often will use, kind of nefarious methods to get there. At least that's the message that I heard. And, like, when Max Schreck is having the meeting with Bruce Wayne, there's a line in there that makes it very obvious, where he says, "Too much power, there's no such thing."
Yeah, it's like, that's my whole purpose in life.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was little weird that there's a masquerade that's being held, a dance party, and at that, Max Schreck is wearing like a clairvoyance hat, or
it's like a turban or something.
Yeah. Like he's supposed to be some kind of psychic, like a psychic. And on that, there's it has the triangle in the one eye, or the pyramid in the one eye, or like right on it, which was a little much. I think there might be a very deep direction to go with what this movie might be trying to say. And as far as like the anti-capitalism, the Penguin getting tossed, like getting put in a basket and tossed down the river. And actually the writer, I think Sam Hamm, he even said as much, that he was borrowing from the Moses story. Like, it's very Moses. And then the Penguin is just this like little fat guy, balding, the kind of deformed, the big nose, all this stuff. And I gotta admit, it felt a little anti-Semitic. Like, it felt like, I don't know if they were trying to paint him as a Rothschild or something. Like, he was the guy behind, all the power. Like, he was above Max Schreck. He was, like, even trying to become mayor and all this different stuff. And I worry about that was... I mean, that just seemed, and no pun intended, really, it seemed a little too on the nose. It was kind of weird that what was getting portrayed there, because Jews often do get portrayed as like these ugly little balding banker, kind of characters.
And how did he end up running for mayor in the first place? How did he even come to the surface? It's because he had the shrewd nose to go digging around for dirt on Max Schreck.
Right, he lives in the ghettos. I mean, and
well, he lives in the sewer.
Yeah, but you get my point.
Yeah.
And like he has all like the metaphorical and literal dirt that everybody put down their trash or flush down the toilet or something like that.
Yeah, like he has the hand of the person that Max killed.
Yeah.
He's got like names of people who've helped him with dirty deals.
Yeah, it's a little too much. Like where it really did feel like, okay, you're trying to say something here, and
he has a master plan the whole time too.
Mm-hmm.
Like he knows who his parents are from the very beginning once he goes up, but he says that he doesn't know so that he can go into City Hall and look through these books of names.
Right. Yeah, and he's like really big on family lineage. I don't know. I mean, I could be reading a little too much into it, but Tim Burton's not a simple guy. And he doesn't do simple things. Like he has a point in a lot of what he does. I wonder if there's some kind of if there's some line of message there, some kind of theme trying to be, or something trying to be said in that. But I don't know how far to go with that. So, but just putting it out there for people to listen to. So it's interesting. This is a movie. I want to hear what other thoughts you have on it. I will say I feel like this is a movie where in the last one Warner Brothers had Tim Burton kind of under on the reins. Like I mean, like they kind of had him under control, or
they had him on a leash.
Yes, thank you. They had. I do this all the time. It's so bad. Yes, that's the phrase I was looking for. They had him on a leash, on a short leash.
Like Catwoman would have, right?
That's interesting. Might be something there. But yeah, they had him on a short leash. With this one, I think he did so well with the '89 Batman that they were just like, all right, Tim, go ahead and do whatever the fuck you want with this movie. And I think that's why we ended up with such a very strange and fucked up film. Tim Burton is tremendously talented. I'm not going to take anything away from him on that. He's worked on, even when it wasn't his own movie, he's worked on some of my favorite movies of all time, including Tron. I mean, he's tremendous. And I like a couple of his films. I really do. But I think this is a movie where just the studio let him have his way and do whatever he wanted, and I think they ended up paying for it. Because, I mean, he's nuts. Like, and this movie comes off as having like I feel like it almost has an identity crisis. Like there's so many stories going on at once that don't always meld very well. Overall, it just comes off as a schizophrenic film, in my opinion. I do like it a lot more than I remember ever liking it. Like I mean, it's still there's still enough Batman there to make it enjoyable for me. And Catwoman is great, but everything else kind of, just in my mind, I mean, the production's great. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that story-wise and some of the other elements, it's just not Batman for me, And so as to where the '89 Batman, even though it was different from, Adam West's Batman and what a lot of people thought of as Batman, it still worked because it worked, because it was that good. And anyway, I mean, how do you feel about this movie? Like what's your take on it overall?
Well, I think it's a misnomer to say that it's a Batman movie because he was only like a small part of this feature.
And that's a totally fair point. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if anything, this is more of a story about Catwoman and Penguin.
Mm-hmm. And Max Schreck. Yeah.
Yeah. And Batman, I think, like he plays a useful part in like building the bridge between Batman and Selina and their split personality disorder. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, he's just not really like featured that much. I think there is a lot of really interesting symbolism and messages going on. Like the destruction of like Catwoman destroying the mall stores.
Oh yeah.
The Red Triangle gang.
Well, that gets
They're backing the Penguin. They're helping him to, create chaos in the city. And
right.
Yeah, I mean, just so many fascinating messages. But just didn't really feel a lot like Batman.
You raise a great point there, though, is that this felt like a world created for the other characters and not for Batman himself. And it's not like Batman shouldn't feel like, is he out of place in Gotham because he believes so much in justice and in good and humanity?
Kinda.
Sure, but at the same time, like, he is a product of Gotham, and his tools and everything about him is to defend Gotham. So he should, like, the Batmobile in the '89 Batman in Gotham City looks like it fits in that world. Like,
yes.
Like it's striking. It looks amazing, but it totally fits with everything else that you're seeing if you're looking at a skyline. Basically.
It's like Art Deco.
Yeah, right. In this movie, the Batmobile looks downright strange. Like, it just does not belong there. And so, I think you raised a very interesting point that I hadn't considered. That it feels like the surroundings, the production of this film, is more about the other characters than it is about Batman. And I think maybe that left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths as well, including mine. But okay, but continue. How else do you feel about this film? Because that was very insightful.
I don't really know what else to say. I mean, like, I just felt that it was very creepy and dark, and there was a lot of death and a lot of messages. I think we covered most of them, but there's certainly more conversations to be had about what's going on, because there's a lot of, like, nested imagery and meanings. I don't know that we're going to cover them all here, but just not a kid's film.
No,
for sure.
Right, not a kid's film. Yeah. With Batman Forever, which we're going to see this next. This very much, I think, is kind of a kid's film. There is, I don't know if we're going to end up watching this before we do the full review of Batman Forever. I've recently, I know it's been around for a while now, but I've recently learned about an alternate edition of Batman Forever called the Red Book edition. That could be very interesting to see if that makes it a darker film and all this stuff. But Batman Forever, I think you're going to find, is a very different film from these previous two. Even though, Batman Returns just feels very different from the '89 Batman. There's other little points like I wanted to bring up that, the Batmobile, I think the reason it gets destroyed is because in the next movie they need to sell you a new Batmobile. You buy the new toys next season and all of this. But little things like that. Otherwise, I think we kind of hit it. I mean, it's an odd movie, and it doesn't feel like a Batman movie. I know, of course, Sovryn Tech and TIE Fighter Renegades co-host Robin Freebeard. I was talking with him. I don't think he'll mind me saying this. I was talking with him, and when he was younger, it was like his favorite movie. Like, he loved it. He thought it was really, really great. Which, I tried thinking about it when he told me that, and I'm like, where's, because I trust him with my life, and I'm trying to think, like, where is he seeing this? Some of the fight sequences feel like a video game, and that could be kind of cool. And there were a ton of video games around this movie, and some of them were actually okay. They were pretty good video games, but I don't know. It's a fucking odd ass movie, and I guess you agree, Ellen.
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean, Catwoman's great, but I mean, like, if you're taking it as a Batman film, it just doesn't feel it. So, any last thoughts you want to give this a ranking out of 10? I think you gave the '89 Batman, I think you gave that like a 9.
Yeah, that was a really great film.
Yeah.
This one, I don't feel like there's a lot of cohesiveness with the story. And there's just so much going on with the characters that wasn't really related to Batman, and I think I'd give this one a 7.
A 7?
Yeah. There's a lot of violence.
Yeah.
And not all of it's good.
Yeah.
Like, some needs to happen in these movies because they are action films, but I just didn't like a lot of what I saw with the violence. I mean, like you said, Batman ended up, like, killing some people from the Red Triangle gang.
Yeah. 7. Okay. I mean, I don't know. It's still, for me, it kind of feels like Superman 4, which I know you haven't seen that. But it feels like Superman 4, where it's like, okay, I recognize that this isn't, like, the greatest movie ever, but it's still fucking Christopher Reeve in the Superman outfit. So, like, let's enjoy this, and I kind of see myself watching this movie in that way. I cannot picture myself ever watching this movie again. You know, like I just can't do it. So I don't know. I want to get. I guess a part of me wants to give it maybe a 6 because I mean, there's so many great elements to it. Like the actors are top of their game.
Yeah, the characters are fun.
Catwoman's awesome.
Yeah, Catwoman, the Penguin, Max Schreck, they're like amazing characters for what the movie is.
Yeah, regardless of Penguin being disturbing, it's still a character that works within the world that it's put in. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the bat ski boat was pretty cool. Alfred's still great. I guess I'm going to go with the 6. I'm going to go with the 6 on this. But 7, I get it. Like, I really get it. It's still a Tim Burton film. It's still a Michael Keaton movie. And, like, it's hard to want to rank anything like that lower than a 7. But
yeah, I mean, the comedy in it was great.
Yeah, there was some damn good comedy in this that was really funny. So
again, the characters are fantastical. I really enjoyed that. I like that it was kind of revolutionary as far as, like, the feminist messages. Maybe not totally, but like you said, where else are you going to see, like, a BDSM woman walking around in leather, you know? Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. And again, I mean, there's elements of this that are great, you know? And so I'm trying to be generous.
No, that's good. That's good. I mean, I can see the 7. Like, I wouldn't argue. If somebody gave this a 9, I mean, then, you know.
It's like, where's the musical score? Where's Batman?
Yeah. But again, if someone gave it a 9, we might be going to a therapist, you know, about that. But no, I'm kidding. But, 7, 6, 7, somewhere around there. I think that fits. Anyway, Batman Forever is going to be a very different story, I guarantee. And I mean, I'll say it outright. I rank that movie very highly, very, very highly. I haven't watched it in a while, so this might be interesting. Maybe my mind will change. So you're going to have to listen in, folks, if you want to hear about that. But and of course, we'll get Ellen's take on the whole thing. Brilliant as always. And thank you, Ellen, for being on.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and we'll be back with Batman Forever in a few days here, and then Batman and Robin after that. Which, oh boy, that's going to be a conversation.
Hey, I don't think we told the listeners what we meant at the beginning of this podcast when we said that we're going to be breaking the rules.
Oh, yeah. Well, do we want to give it away? Why don't we give it away? So, sure, okay. So we're thinking, like, I think it would be fun to review these movies, like, while we're having dinner, you know?
Yeah, we'll be eating and talking.
Yeah, dinner and a movie, and like just sitting around at the table, sitting around the Amazon Basics microphone here, and just saying, like, you know, talking about the film, shooting the shit about the movie. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Yeah,
and we'll share with you what we're having for dinner.
Yeah, and you're gonna hear the silverware. You're gonna hear the whole thing, and unless it's pizza, but you know, I don't know.
Well, it'll be like you're hanging out with us. You're having dinner with us, and we're talking about a movie that we just watched.
Yeah, dinner and a movie with Brian and Ellen. I don't know if that's going to be the name of this whole thing, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So
yeah, we'll give it a try.
Yeah, we'll try it out. And if it gets too much, if you just can't handle, you know, like hearing the utensils and all this other stuff, or like, you know, Ellen might burp or something. I don't know.
I do burp. Or talking with the mouths half full.
Yeah, you're just gonna hear if you hear that sort of stuff. If you really can't handle it, then let us know. But I think it'll be a fun experiment. I say, what the hell, let's do it. So anyway, all right, that's it for our review of Batman Returns, a very, very strange fucking movie. And I think there's actually a whole lot of analysis to take into that, which is probably true of all Tim Burton work. But regardless, next time it's Joel Schumacher at the helm of Batman Forever, and we'll talk about that. So anyway, that's it for this episode. See you all on the other side. Woo!